I am a flower. Yes, I'm beautiful. I've heard it before, and it never grows old. I'm worshipped for my looks, my scent, my looks. But here's the thing. Life starts with me. You see, I feed people. Every fruit comes from me. Every potato, me. Every kernel of corn, me. Every grain of rice, me. Me. I know, but it's true. And sometimes I feed their souls. I am their words when they have none. I say I love you without a sound. I'm sorry without a voice. I inspire the greatest of them. Painters, poets, pattern makers. I've been amused to them all. But in my experience, people underestimate the power of a pretty little flower. Because their life does start with me. And it could end without me.
We are going to move into what we're calling the operator panel. And in alphabetical order here today, you're going to hear from Earth, Recompose, Return Home, and the Natural Funeral. And I am going to start with just a brief introduction of my friends on the panel, starting with Tom Harries, the founder and CEO of Earth. Tom is an innovator in the funeral industry. He previously founded Tulip Cremation and grew that into a firm that serves lots of people, and now is pioneering in this space of natural organic reduction with us. Morgan is services manager and a licensed funeral director at Recompose. And Morgan's going to share with us a little bit about how Recompose delivers those services. And then Micah is the founder and CEO of Return Home, and he's going to share with us a little bit about their operation. And I want to brag on Micah a little bit. Return Home, a new funeral home, new as human composting is new, was named the 2022 National Funeral Directors Association Funeral Home of the Year. So, of the 22,000 funeral homes across the country, little old Return Home focusing on human composting has already gained that kind of recognition. And so with no further ado, I'm going to hand this clicker over to you, Tom. Hopefully we've gotten our battery situation sorted out. If not, then ask Alexis and she'll advance slides for you.
Brilliant. Great, it's working. I can hear myself. Good start. Cool, brilliant. I've got the worst spot, I think. I follow Seth, who created the conference, is on home territory. Katrina, who has disappeared, but is the creator of natural organic reduction. So you've got me next, I'm afraid. Cool, I'm going to give a high-level overview of Earth. I think the exciting thing you will see over the next few days is a lot of people from different backgrounds are really excited by this. I think that's the really interesting part, is it's not one size fits all. There are a lot of different people, different approaches. So I'm going to give a high-level overview of Earth and our approach to the space. Okay, click, it doesn't work. Next slide, please. This is a picture of me. By way of introduction, as Seth says, my name is Tom Harries. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Earth, the company, not the planet. I've been in the funeral industry for 10 years now. I originally started in the UK, had an online obituary website, then moved to the US in 2017 to start a company called Tulip. We grew that into the largest online funeral provider in the US in about 2 years. Currently active in 10 states, and yeah, have been pretty involved in the software and tech side of the space to date. Next slide, please. Okay, so who is Earth? We were founded in 2020. I'm one of the co-founders. Richard is the other co-founder. Richard is in the middle there. Richard was previously Chief Financial Officer at Foundation Partners, which is one of the larger groups in the space. So again, our approach has been one of quite a lot of experience in the industry and applying those learnings to a new concept. We're based in Auburn, Washington. We are neighbors with Micah and Return Home. We are quite literally a stone's throw from each other. And we launched in April 2022 after 2 years of developing all the body composting technology. And I think that's the other interesting part. Is we all have slightly different processes, all have different vessels, and again, I'll show you the Earth way of doing things as we go through the presentation. We operate as a natural organic reduction facility and funeral home, and we're currently selling in Washington and Oregon, so we're very Pacific Northwest focused for the time being. And we have a combined 70 years of funeral experience between us, and this is the early team. We are probably about 3 times the people now, and these are the people who started this with us and operate the facility, work with families day in, day out, and have been brave to sort of accompany us on this new journey. Next slide, please. Great. And our vision for Earth is a world in which everyone's last act contributes to a healthier, happier planet, which hopefully everyone can align with. And we're doing that through body composting. Next slide. I think everyone probably knows what body composting is, so I'm not going to go into that. But we have a 45-day process. That's the time we need to transform a body into nutrient-rich soil. We have a proprietary vessel that we have developed that is creating the ideal conditions for the process. What this vessel is doing is controlling temperature, is controlling moisture, and it's optimizing moisture levels. That creates the perfect conditions for microbes to then break the body down at a molecular level. And I think we're going to hear more about the science later, so I won't speak too much to that. And we're using locally sourced natural materials. So all the materials we use in the process, we're using organic mulch, wood chip, wildflower, come from pretty much a 10-mile radius. And one of the frequently asked questions we get is, do you use chemicals? Are you using insects? And no chemicals, no insects are used at any point during the process. This is pure nature. Next slide. Cool. So we're operating in Auburn, Washington. We house our vessels in what we would consider a state-of-the-art facility. We launched Earth Pacific Northwest in April 2022, so coming up to a year in business. We currently have capacity for 78 vessels, and we have the ability to expand to over 200 as demand necessitates. We use 100% renewable energy as a facility, and we are proudly carbon neutral with our process. Next slide. Recompose partners with Bells Mountain. We have a piece of land on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington. Families choose how much soil they'd like at the end of the process. As Katrina says, it's about a cubic yard of nutrient-rich soil that is produced. That is far too much soil for the majority of people. So people can take all the soil if they want. Most people, we find, are donating it to conservation projects and using the soil in really meaningful ways to them. And I think that's the beauty of this, is people connect to the soil and the process in different ways. We've had lots of beautiful stories about people creating memorial gardens, people handing out portions of soil to 100 different family members, people using soil to restore fire-damaged land on their property, that sort of thing. So people are using this in really innovative and meaningful ways. We send the remaining soil to the Olympic Peninsula. We actually purchased this piece of land. It's been historically logged, and we're now restoring it by planting native conifer trees and removing any invasive non-native species. And I think this last point is what really connects with a lot of our families, is that we're using death care as a means to restore and protect the planet for future generations. Next slide. Thank you. I'm not going to ramble for too long, so I wanted to end with a quote from a family. And this has been the really exciting part, is how people have connected with this. And we get people from all walks of life, socioeconomic, race, just different backgrounds. This is way more mainstream, I think, than people realize. And I think Katrina's goal for this to be truly mainstream over the next 30 years is very doable, and I think it'll be even quicker. I hope it'll be even quicker. And I like this quote, and not even the sort of second part of it, but this is nature. This is how we are supposed to end up. And so for the trees, plants, earth, we doing what nature intended. And I'm going to pause there.
While Alexis is changing the slides, I do want to mention that we each sort of agreed to intentionally keep this brief, and the reason is that we want to leave about 15 to 20 minutes at the end of this panel if anyone has specific questions. And so be thinking about that, and maybe the questions will be answered, but there will be an invitation for you to connect here in 20 minutes or so.
Thanks, Seth. Hello, everyone. I'm Morgan. Alexis, thank you. I'm the services manager at Recompose. I have been with Recompose really since the beginning when we were first in Kent. I joined in September of 2020. We took in our first person around November, and we placed our first person in a vessel in December of 2020. And it has been an honor to be a part of that journey and to see how Recompose has evolved and how NOR is evolving as a concept, how inspiring it is to people, and how many incredible humans I get to now work alongside. So it's been amazing, and I'm grateful to be here. I'm going to talk to you today about our facility in Seattle, the services that we offer there, and what families experience when they come to us. So, welcome to Recompose. I don't have I think this doesn't work, so. Mm-mm. That's okay, thank you. Welcome to Recompose. We are located in the industrial district of South Seattle. Not sure what's happening there. And it is an industrial district, so we intentionally wanted to design our location so that when people pull up in their car, they are very sure that they have arrived at Recompose. They know where they are. So we have a beautiful mural all over our building that was painted by a local artist for us, and we have a native plant garden that people can walk through as well. So that's what they see when they get to the entrance. Next slide, please. This is our lobby. So this is what people see when they walk through our doors. We really want to inform, comfort, and inspire people who visit our site. And so in our lobby, we have several pictures of Bell's Mountain, which Katrina has mentioned. We have little cards that talk about those pictures and talk about our process so people can be informed. We have a lot of living plants, and we have this big, beautiful wooden desk, which I love. It was created for us by a local woodworker and her team. It was the first desk that she made, so I'm pretty proud of that too. We also have a preserved moss wall behind the desk, which is, interestingly, a very popular spot for selfies. So if you come visit us, please do that in front of our moss wall. From our lobby, you can access our arrangement rooms where we meet with families. You can access a quiet room should you need a moment alone, some quiet space. And you can access our gathering space where we hold our larger ceremonies, as well as the cedar room where we offer more intimate ceremonies and an opportunity to have hands-on death care experiences for those who want them. Next slide, please. Thank you. I am so proud to offer and to be able to talk about our cedar room. I feel like it's my baby a little bit. It really inspires me. So it was inspired, what we do here, by home funerals, really, and it is informed by natural death care techniques that my team and I are all trained in. So in this room, it fits about 6 people comfortably, plus our staff who may be accompanying. Some examples of what families can do in this room includes bathing their person. We have access to running water if they need that. They could dress or shroud their person. They could brush their hair, paint their nails, anoint them, pray over them, or just spend some time sitting with them and holding their hand. It's a very special place. So far, since we've opened this room to the public, it's been used for very, very small ceremonies, like 1 to 2 people who just want to have a moment for a ritual of their own or a moment for themselves. It's been used for hand holdings where people will come, they'll hold their loved one's hand and maybe play music in the background or something like that. And it's been used for virtual viewings for people who maybe send their person to us or live out of state and couldn't make it down. Those are their primary uses so far, and we're really excited to see what the future holds for this room. We offer tools like a variety of herbs, essential oils, sponges, brushes, shampoos, all things that you may need to do that hands-on death care should you wish. Sometimes I'd like to think of it as a spa for the dead. We try to make it a really pleasant environment with a lot of grooming and care tools that people can use, and of course they could bring their own as well. Our funeral directors can be as hands-on as clients want. We can help with the bathing, we can help with dressing or shrouding, or we can be more hands-off, simply checking in on people when we need to, or being around to ask questions. It's truly up to the clients, and we co-create this experience with them. Our gathering space is a little bit bigger. This is where we hold our larger ceremonies. It fits 25 to 30 people seated comfortably, and we also have full live streaming options so people can do Zoom if they wish. We call our ceremony, the base ceremony, the laying in. You'll hear that term a lot. Other people also use that and have that ceremony. The core part of our ceremony, and again, families can choose whatever they want, but the core part of this is the body is present, shrouded or not, depending on what the family wants. The body is resting in a cradle. The cradle is on a cart, so the whole unit can be easily moved. And then plant materials are laid down across that person's body. And finally, the person is placed into the threshold vessel that you see right there in front of the cradle. And I'll talk more about that in just a moment. And Alexis, if you could jump back one slide, I think. Other way. Yeah, no problem. Just think back like 3 slides. You know, hey, it just keeps going forward, so I'm going to keep going forward. We encourage family participation in our ceremonies, of course, and so that can look like the family coming in and using baskets of wood chips and straw that we provide them, laying that plant material down across their person, or they can bring in their own plant materials and mementos, other offerings they want to send their person on their journey with. That happens quite a bit. Saying has a mind of its own. Disregard the slides, please. But you know, that is just an example. Again, this room is for the families, so we work with them in any way that they need. Oftentimes, our funeral directors act as the celebrant and the ceremony guide. And so we do have a base level ceremony that we offer to people who maybe aren't coming to us informed by a religious background or don't know what they want. It's actually pretty popular. It's called the carbon cycle ceremony. And I designed this with the intent of reminding people that we are not separate from nature. We are all a part of these natural cycles of the planet. The carbon cycle is one of them. And so through natural organic reduction in particular, our molecules that we're made up of are not lost. We are just transformed. We change shape and we re-enter the natural world as soil. And so that's what the ceremony really focuses on. It is simple but quite powerful. And there's room for participation by the family in there too. This is a good example of that. Again, just one option. We have worked with Unitarian reverends, with rabbis, with other religious figures and community leaders who will work with the family themselves and have their own ceremony. We just provide the tech support, perhaps, and that's wonderful. We always welcome that in our space. You can see the threshold vessel a little bit more here. It's on the left. And so just like it sounds like, the threshold vessel is a doorway. It is a gateway from the gathering space to behind that wall where our greenhouse is. That is where our active composting vessels are, and you saw them during Katrina's slideshow, the very big, striking hex array of vessels is what we call it. And through those windows to the right of the threshold vessel, you can actually see that array. So when clients are visiting, when guests are visiting, they can look through those windows, and often we can say, you know, Mom is going to go there. And we do offer public tours, and people can come and see that as well. We offer tours for family members if they want to come back there as well. So truly, it's ceremonial, but it is a significant moment in time where families are sending their person from one moment in their life, in their journey, to the next moment in their journey where their transformation will begin. The threshold vessel actually has a message engraved in it. It is a message for the dead, and it's a stanza from a poem written by one of Recompose's employees. And it says, "May we not live in fear of decomposing, but in awe and gratitude of our future recomposing." I'm almost done, I promise. As of Tuesday, Recompose has served over 250 clients. We reached 250 on Tuesday. So that is 250 people who have either already been transformed into soil or are in the process of that. 250 is a number that I'm both surprised by and not surprised by, and it fills me with a lot of joy. About 60% of our families choose to donate most or all of their soil to Bell's Mountain. Katrina talked about this. You will hear more from Elliot tomorrow about what a beautiful place Bell's Mountain is. And the soil that's donated there is used in restoration projects. We do offer tours for the family of people who have donated that soil. Elliot and I started working on that together last year, and I'm excited to see what that looks like this year as we work together and improve that. On the left, you see our team loading in the soil of Mr. Wayne Dodge into a truck. And I like this photo because it really shows how much soil is generated. It fills up the whole truck. So only about 40%, maybe 35 to 40% will take that amount home of our clients, because it is a lot, and a lot of the people we serve are Seattleites or even out of the state. So his sister Marie came with their truck, husband Larry right there. They came with a big truck, a tarp, tie downs, and we're like, let's get Wayne home. He's going to go be a garden. There it is. A lot of Wayne's soil was taken by friends, family, and neighbors for gardens of their own. But the family did plant this lovely garden in front of their house. And they also used Wayne's soil to plant Japanese maple trees, which Wayne really loved. And so I want to end my bit with words from his sister Marie. "I still talk with Wayne every time I'm weeding underneath my own Japanese maples. I love thinking of them spread under the roots of so many trees." Thank you.
10 minutes, right? Let's do this. Can y'all hear me? Hello. Let's do it. Turning on a timer. No slides for me, fellas. This ain't the flavor we're going to do. I'm not going to talk to you about technology. I'm not going to talk to you about carbon capture. I'm not going to talk about organics, bulking agents for the gentle transformation that returns us to the earth. All of it is true. But I think there's a bigger story at play. And it's one I didn't understand, and it's one I understand, I think, a lot better now. I was sitting with my sweet Jewish mama, the kitchen, with her two buddies from New York. Katrina was in the newspaper. Moment just to again thank Katrina Spade. 100 plus of us are sitting here because she brought this forward. So Katrina, you freaking rock. So I'm reading about Katrina, and with all due respect, I go, that's absolutely freaking bananas. I've never seen anything so dumb in my life. And my mother looks at me and she goes, that ain't dumb. That ain't dumb at all. I'd do that. And her two friends are sitting there and go, well, we're from New York. Can you get our bodies from New York to Seattle? I'm like, we're like eating bagels. Like, this is not, this is not some freaking death coffee clatch we're talking about here. It's my mama and my uncle Oliver. Like, what the hell is going on? So what happens is, of course, is we've all drunk the Kool-Aid. You aren't going to need to do this. But I'll tell you something. Whoever talks to us, like, hate, neutral, it lives in your head rent-free. There is no escaping it, right? And lived in mine. And so I couldn't let it go. And I began return home in January of 2019. I had to assemble a really interesting team. I did not want to test on human bodies. I didn't feel comfortable with that. I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of doing something wrong. And so we chose, nice Jewish guy that I am, an endless line of pigs who will be waiting for me. A pig, if you don't mind talking about pigs. They're really cool, right? So, all right, let's do it. I weigh about 200 pounds, right? I should probably be 175, but I'm 200 pounds. I'm about 5'9", right? A pig weighs the same amount. Let's just say it's 18 inches tall. So it's this. Its surface area to weight ratio is outrageous. They are essentially a perambulating chunk of pork with 2-inch thick skin, right? What do we make? We make footballs out of pigs. It is no accident. Long story short, if you can terramate a pig, you can terramate a person. And man almighty, did we terramate pigs. The guy who I worked with was something called a mortality, somebody called a mortality composter. They are the Mr. Wolf of the agricultural industry. Mr. Wolf, Pulp Fiction, blood, gore, guts splattered all over the place, and my boy comes in and makes it better. Imagine that you are a farmer. You have 50,000 chickens. This is not hyperbole. Last year, avian flu was all the deal, right? And you realize either your chickens are dead or they need to be. He comes in, he develops or puts together a temporary facility and transforms your animals into soil. Great, problem solved. I got this. I'm a freaking genius. All right, so let's do it. And he goes, great. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the bodies, okay? And we're going to kind of coat them in chicken shit. And then we're going to run some air through it. And then we're going to coat the whole thing in soft, in like sawdust. It's going to be amazing. And we're like, no, that's not how it's going to go. No problem. We're going to do a ziggurat piling formation, and and the long story short was this. The science was incredibly dialed, incredibly mature, but absolutely inappropriate to show the love and care that we need for another human being. And so the journey that I was on was not one of science in terms of how do we take large body and transform it into soil, but rather how do we take existing science and transform it into something that shows great love. And I was very blessed. The man that was doing our mortality composting for us had lost people that were very close to him. And he was able to devise something that I think was very unique, because I didn't have, remember, all this was things I didn't know. And what he said was this: before you develop your science, develop your ethics. What are your underpinning ethics? And I'm like, I don't know, John, I want to take a body, I don't want to be in the soil. And he goes, okay, so here's the thing. We must use dignity and love. You ever notice how we always use dignity and love? You know it doesn't mean crap, right? Because we never define it, do we? We just go dignity and love, and everyone goes, oh, dignity and love, absolutely. Let's actually break down what dignity and love means to return home specifically. It means we don't cut, we don't grind, we don't separate. It means that we make sure a body completely transforms before we do anything manual to it. It means we give you our guarantee that nothing in our vessel is moving, and therefore nothing will disturb your person. And if you don't believe us, we'll hold your hand and stand next to you and show you. I didn't know that. You know what I wanted? I wanted fast. I was freaked out. I thought that you guys, the families, needed quick, right? Holy cow, like cremation, 72 hours. Like we've quarter pounder and cheese this thing. Like we got to go quick, right? And so I went to John and I want you to go faster. So again, if I pretend virtue, just don't believe a word of it. And he said, I can't do that. I can't do that, because that violates the principles that we've put together. I'm like, John, tell me the fastest you got. He goes, 2 months, 2 months. And I go, I think we need to go quicker. He goes, then you need to find another guy. I said, I think we need to go slower. I like you, so all right, John. And so we were off. The early interviews, I talked about organics, vessels, carbon capture, and return to the earth. I talked about it in pounds. I talked about outputs. And frankly, guys, I was wrong. When we talk about cars, it's not like we say, you know, I have a 452 horsepower Mazda, and it has incredible acceleration. I just love it, right? You say, I love my car. It takes my kids. It makes sure my husband can get to work. We miss the point. The point of what we call terramation, by the way, I don't like, the word human composting. I don't like human incineration for cremation. I don't like underground interment for burial. It gives me the yucks. And I'm kind of a wuss. So with terramation, the thing that makes it so amazing is, and for me it was a coincidence, it lets us say goodbye in a way the world hasn't seen since before the Civil War. And that's magic. And if you think I knew that when you started, you are, again, completely wrong. No clue. I said in my first interview, this is a fantastic tool to quickly transform human remains into soil and capture carbon. Like, talk about missing it. There's a dude, he's on his hands and knees. He is cleaning the cracks in my facility. Can't have cracks in my facility. Outside is his truck. It has stickers on it that don't match the nice white tree hugger vibe we all exude. He looks at me and he goes, y'all turning people into soil? I say, yes. And I'm waiting for him to say, you suck, right? And he looks at me and he goes, I just took my kid, to the crematorium. And I took her there. She's 20, and she overdosed. And I'm her dad. And it was my job to take her there. And I stood next to her, next to that retort. And I hated it. Could you do better? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, do better. Yeah, I can do better. It's going to be great. Think carbon capture, baby. And he goes, so if you put that body, her body, in that vessel, could I put flowers? Could I stand next to her vessel? Could I put flowers in it? I'm like, sure, flowers, Love letters? How about a bad bottle of scotch, right? And so from the outside in, we realized that our people could do things that they'd never seen possible. I didn't intend for our vessels to be seen. I didn't intend for people to stand next to them. I didn't intend for them to put anything inside them. And when I watch that, every single cell in my body is like standing at attention. I'm a hairy guy. I'm like a porcupine as I stand there. The facility was ugly. It looked like Costco, stacked 3 high. Katie was like, don't tell them Broncos colors. Dude, the racks are Broncos colors, right? It looked awful. I love anyway. And so people were coming there. And the thing to remember is we were losing our young ones, you guys. The young people were coming to us. I am not here to talk about all grief being the same. A 35-year-old's grief's different than a 70-year-old. But what I will say is there is a pitch of grief to a 35-year-old, to a 25-year-old, to a younger one that runs very, very powerful. And I had never seen a dead body. And it was something to me that I've never really been able to describe. My weakness, and it has been said by many, I was a finance guy, and all that is true. But what I saw was an awakening that is very, very different than anything I've ever seen. Our facility is packed with people. They stand next to their vessel. Last week we had an African-American family, total tragedy. They lost 2 kids on the I-5, 34 and 38, best friends, cousins. 2 days later, another cousin got shot and killed. We open up the vessel. They come in to see their person. The mom, as she's walking out, just from the viewing, not for the family, has a heart attack on the front stoop of our facility. You notice, guys, this is about people. This is about humans. This is about the time that is the darkest, hardest time of our life. Listen to Seth's thing. When does he see God? When does he see answers? When does he understand the essence of his being? He sees it in his darkest, hardest days. And it is our privilege, it is our service that we do that in front of the families that come to us. And so they said they had 50 people coming in, and they had 200 people coming in. 200 black people came in. And that's interesting, because then they parked their cars all over, and you know what? Neighbors weren't overly psyched about 200 black people coming into our facility in those kinds of numbers. It was really amazing to watch. And they sat there in a huge group, and they filled their person's vessel with stuff. And I realized at the end of that, that was why we exist. And it's great what we can do. But really what it is that matters the most is we are able to be the brightest thing that happens to somebody in the darkest time of their life. And that is what sustains me and my team. Y'all are beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Micah. All right, I'm going to share with you there's a thread of commonality that runs through our shares, and so I'm going to talk briefly about the natural funeral as a breadth of offering that encompasses more things than body composting. Would you go ahead to the next slide, please? And I'm going to go through, I have about 10 slides, and they're all photos. And I'm going to use these to show you what service feels like at the natural funeral. And I've already shared with you that we have a desire to make possible what the family requests. And we have absolutely no restriction or reservation about what that might be. I will say we've gotten requests that we could not honor, but we make every effort to say yes when we can. And to that end, we bury people in really beautiful ways. Natural organic reduction is just one of the options that the natural funeral provides. Our roots are in this, the ties to green burial. We have helped to advocate for green burial grounds to be open. We've had conventional cemeteries that have operated with graves, headstones, and vault liners, and caskets and embalming for over 100 years. And we've spoken with boards of directors and had entire policies shifted towards green burial. And that's a part of our mission. We also help families with private land burial. We help people bury on their own property. Would you skip to the next slide, please? A beautiful burial. Would you skip to the next slide, please? This is an example of saying yes when a family has a difficult request. Jesse asked us if he could. Jesse came to us from St. Louis, Missouri, and called us and asked if we could help facilitate a private land, open-air pyre for his wife who had died metastatic breast cancer. And this pyre was lit on the day that would have been her 40th birthday. And we helped to transport her to Colorado, and her 2-year-old and 4-year-old daughter were present when we made this possible for this family. And this was not easy. Frankly, this wasn't profitable. I don't recommend that you go into the business of open pyre cremation, but it was radically important to this family, and it elevated the spirits of everyone at the natural funeral to be able to offer this service to someone who needed it. Next slide, please. I mentioned to you that we have requests for other ecological offerings, and before natural organic reduction was available or even legal in Colorado, we serve families with water cremation. We do not return the water cremation or the liquid essence of a body to sewer. We never have. And that's done all over the world and all over the country. And I'm not against the people who do that, but it didn't match the way that we wanted to use the gift of the body. So we return that liquid in the form of a biostimulant that has a very quantifiable nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, micronutrient makeup. And it goes to flower farms and land restoration projects all over Colorado, as far as western Kansas and as far as southern Wyoming. And we've returned about 400 people to the earth through this process. Next slide. This is our version of a natural organic reduction chrysalis vessel. The natural funerals approach is one that is soft, that is beautiful, that is made from natural materials, and our emphasis was not on speed of process. Our emphasis was on quality of the soil remains and on making something that was approachable and that families could touch and feel and be a part of. This is a cabinet, and what you're going to see in the room, we actually have 2 demonstration vessels. They're not ventilated or computerized. They're here for demonstration. And to my left is a version 1 vessel, sans all those electronic components that I mentioned. And on the right is the cabinetry that we use for our 2nd generation chrysalis vessel. It fits inside there. The actual composting technology fits inside that cabinetry. Next slide, please. This is a preparation for a family who's arriving at the natural funeral for a laying in. We remove the plants, we create an altar table, and then we allow the family to touch their person and actually help to place them in the vessel and add organics. Next slide. We don't just do that at the natural funeral. This is actually a photo from a service, the 5th person who was transformed into soil in Colorado. Andy Davis was in that vessel, and you're going to hear from Carrie Davis, his wife, tomorrow about what this meant to her. But this was a request where they said, this wouldn't feel appropriate to do this in this industrial facility. Where can we do this on the land? Where can we gather? And a couple hundred people gathered at a facility that we call Willow Farm. We transported a chrysalis vessel there, laid in the body, and then transported that vessel back to our center. Next slide, please. This is the team of us. This is Dan, my partner, myself, and my wife, Vicki, that provide these services. Next slide. And that's Queenie, the funeral support dog, who, again, is the star of my heart. And Queenie's a dachshund, and I'm just going to point out that for funeral home service dogs, I've encountered some beautiful ones. If you're thinking of a funeral home service dog, dachshunds have nice short legs and they can fit on a family member's lap, and they're nice and long. They have the perfect pet-to-leg ratio for a funeral home. So just a plug for dachshunds. Next slide, please. These are the hearts that do the real work. And I don't ever have a presentation that doesn't give credit exactly where it's due, and it's in the hearts of those people. And I think that is my last slide. Yep, and there's a microphone right back here. Vic, will you show me the time? We have about, we've got about 15 minutes for questions. And you've got a willing panel of operators right here. If you have a question, Madison, do you want to go find the people, or do you want to ask them to come?
I'll find people.
Yep, okay.
I have a question for Tom. So you had mentioned that you don't use insects as a part of...
No insects.
No insects? So I know people who use that option to honor pets, but what is the benefit between using NOR versus insects?
I think insects are disgusting, personally.
That's fair.
And would put them nowhere near a body. So I have no better comment than that. Sorry.
From what I know of each of the operators, I think that's a consistent answer. I think each of us use microbials, but nothing related to
no chemicals,
creepy crawlies.
no insects.
No.
Are there any laws around what you can use the compost for?
I don't mind taking that one. I can speak to Colorado. In Colorado, the soil may not be sold, and it may not be placed on edible food crops. And that's due to the possibility of heavy metals, perhaps, surviving this process. And anything beyond that, I'll defer to the scientists who are going to educate us this afternoon. But in Colorado, it's not to be sold. It's not to be commingled with any other soil unless a family has authorized that by way of donation, and not to be used on edible food crops. Other than that, it can be distributed the same way that cremated remains can, which means anywhere, public or private, that you can obtain permission of the landowner, you may place the living soil there.
Thank you. I'm wondering, all of you kind of have come to your technology in a different way. Is there any movement towards creating something that's commercially available for other people, or is it just, are you very proprietary about your own technology and expecting other people to build it from ground up?
I think right
Who
now it's
wants
that one.
Sure.
Yeah.
For us, it is our proprietary technology. We're super psyched to begin spreading it, though. We know that states are going to be ratifying, and we're delighted to figure out partnerships that allow for that.
Yeah, I think as this gains traction, I think we shouldn't knock science and technology here. I recognize the people part of this, and that is the first and foremost thing of importance. The role of science and technology in this is making this scalable. So I think we all agree this is a great concept, but to make it truly scalable, you need to make it repeatable, you need to make it predictable, and that is what science and technology does. As this gains more and more traction, I would fully expect people to start commercially selling this, producing the technology, offering guidance, training, how you set up your own facilities, that sort of thing. I can't speak for all of us. I don't think that's our approach. But I think the Matthews of the world, the sort of crematory and retort providers of the world, will have to get into this space. Otherwise, they are going to become decreasingly relevant. It's happened with alkaline hydrolysis. I'd fully expect it to happen with natural organic reduction in due course.
As a follow-up, have any of you patented yours?
We haven't.
I think Katrina has a patent out there.
Katrina has a patent application. Patent
It's
approvals
I
are
think
a
it's
very
pending.
difficult thing.
Yeah, it's
And
patent
the honest opinion is it's probably difficult, if not impossible, to receive that application. The problem is this, it's the classic creme brulee torch. I make a blowtorch, right? Now a blowtorch is a long-standing item that the world understands. I make a creme brulee blowtorch. It is a blowtorch for creme brulees. While it has a unique use, it is not in and of itself patentable. And that is the challenge to our industry. So applications will be made. I'm highly doubtful they will be approved.
Yeah, there's not much value for patent. I think if you're operating your own equipment, there's not much opportunity to reverse engineer. So expensive, difficult, and don't have much value. So not the path we're going.
Hi, my question is for Micah. Actually, the other providers have talked about what they're doing with we call it product and research because it's not technically soil. What is your group's plan
Yeah.
for all the soil? Because there's a
Great,
lot.
great question. We took a somewhat different approach. Our concern was if we're an environmental company and we're really focused on making sure we're as carbon neutral as we can, we did not want to transport soil long distances from our facility. We found that problematic. Our solution was to buy an 8-acre parcel of land that's a 10-minute drive from our facility that was filled with cars that people had stripped. And it was interesting. They didn't want to just steal the car and strip the car. They then wanted to shoot it with a lot of bullets. We couldn't figure out why. So we removed all the cars. We developed the land. It's really beautiful. And we place also, oh, I'm sorry, and the land is designated unbuildable. So with a 10-minute drive from our facility, we have the ability and to place soil on it.
Have conservation goals for that site or restoration goals?
Absolutely. Without belaboring the obvious, it was full of junked cars. So our hope is to restore it, yes.
Hi, I'm curious, I'm sure each process is different, but once the loved one is placed in the container with the organic materials, over the course of whether it's 45 days or 60 days, is there any manipulation of the contents of the container?
Manipulation is an interesting word. We're optimizing conditions. So we add water, you're adding air. So there's manipulation to that degree. There's nothing in the vessel, if that's what you're asking. The process, or at least Earth's process, is fully microbially driven. So beyond manipulating like natural conditions, optimizing the natural process, we don't do anything.
Yeah, same answer as Tom, very, very similar. Once that vessel is sealed, it doesn't get reopened until we know the soil is safe to come out. The vessel at Recompose does rotate very, very, very gently several times during that process, but we don't go in and do anything to the body during that time.
I think our system is quite different. Our vessels are in our front of house. I think anyone can go and sit next to their vessel. The vessel does not move, it does not rotate. We also have nothing in it, and we do not need to rotate for weeks. It's just simply unnecessary. And we found that it's really important that someone be able to sit next to their person, to put pictures on their person's vessel. We lose a lot of young ones, so they can come over with a 10-piece bucket of chicken, eat 8 of them, leave 2 on top for a little while. And it's that tangibility. We find that, for example, when we walk in, you'll often find this woman, people will put their backs up against our vessels because they're hot. And so we had this young woman who'd said bye to her mom, and we came in and she had her arm like that, and that's because that was the last hug from her mom. So for us, I think what we care very deeply about is physical proximity to the vessel, the ability to come in anytime, the ability to put anything you want in it or on it, within reason. We've seen some crazy stuff.
And I'll share, the natural funerals approach is one that is very manual, and it has operator intervention. And our process is a little bit longer process than most of the other operators here. Our process is 2.5 to 4 months in duration. And the state of Colorado, I think maps to Washington State, and a lot of the emerging laws have to do with heat thresholds being a part of the insurance, that the process is destroying pathogens and creating a safe product. And we manually rotate our vessels. As a matter of fact, if you don't mind, Mark and Ben and Billy, would you guys stand up for a second? This is our team that operates the facility. And thank you, guys. I appreciate you so much. The state of Colorado asked that the internal temperature reach 131 degrees Fahrenheit for 72 straight hours. And we don't restrict that. At the end of 72 hours, we allow that heat cycle to run its natural course. But once the heat dips back down below the 131 degree threshold, we manually rotate the vessel. And to our belief, we like the way that it affects the outcome of the quality of the soil. But it's very human intervention. It's not a mechanical intervention.
Are you able to get around embalming regulations of interstate commerce to provide services to people out of state?
I think we all probably want to answer that one. Who wants to go first?
No, I'll take I do want it. Go on now.
What, me?
You go, baby.
Oh, sure, yes. In most cases, yes. I'm a kind of a mortuary law nerd, actually, and so I take great joy in reading state mortuary laws, looking up their transport and their commerce regulations, working with funeral homes who are under the impression that it's not possible to say, actually, your law says something different. The airlines have these regulations, and helping work with those funeral homes to serve their clients. There are very, very few exceptions. We've taken people from all over the country and actually out of the country too.
You know, at the natural funeral, I would say around 30% of our clients are coming from other states, and we have managed to accommodate that. If you don't know, embalming is not compatible with natural organic reduction. Let's get that out there early and often. That the process designed to preserve and stabilize and prevent decomposition is incompatible with decomposition. And so we do a lot of educating other funeral homes and client families about what is possible, and it is almost unequivocally possible to get a body from somewhere in this country to any of these operators unembalmed and ready for NOR.
Mm-hmm. We've got 2 more over here, I think.
So given that, what do you all see as the 5-year scalability for this disruptive technology?
I think the challenge with human composting, with terramation, is when you look at someone who doesn't know it and you talk about it, they look at you like you're a cuckoo bird. And I think the reason is twofold. I think, one, it's new, right? But if you said, wow, I've got a new way for a car, let's use a battery, they'd go, dude, that's a nice idea, right? But the reason they look at you like you're crazy is because we're talking about dying. And I think that's what makes this unique. If we were talking about food, or cars, or so many other things, I think I would be like, yeah, like to change that. And so the only thing, I think Katrina's right. I think that our scaling is going to happen faster than she believes. And the only barrier to that scale is our ability to discuss things about dying. Because with dying, we have to acknowledge, I'm going to die, that's suboptimal. More importantly, you're going to die, and I love you, and I don't want you to. Can't we just watch the Seahawks play and hope they win? Right? And I'm actually not joking, right? How many of you, how many funeral professionals do we have here in our room? How many times have you had someone walk in and go, I'm heartbroken. I've lost my husband, or he's got dementia. We've been married for 55 years last month, and I have no idea what he wants. How often does that happen? Show of hands. Has that ever had where someone doesn't know it? Dude, here we are. That is the gating item to our scale. Not technology, not legislation. Everything is from our human beings who have to make this happen. Thank you.
It's like we have time for maybe one more question.
Hi, thank you for doing this. I am from New England, and I'm one of the states that is trying to expand and allow for natural organic reduction. In New England, the culture is very different than, say, Colorado or, you know, the West Coast in general, where people are stuck with, you have the traditional wake, then the church service, then the burial. And so natural organic reduction has been a very difficult topic, especially as a funeral director, because other funeral directors look at you like, why are you talking about this? Why are you doing this? This is something, though, that there are plenty of us that are passionate about. Sorry, this was kind of a preface to it. With no ability to embalm, that disrupts that traditional method. I think this question is probably the best for Morgan, but how would you, or how do you work with these families who maybe are expecting to have that full typical service, if you even have that at all, and what advice could you give? Thank you.
Yeah, great question. I would say that most of the people who come to Recompose, you know, they don't really want the traditional service, but people who do want a viewing or do want to have something that is more traditional, where they get to walk in and see their person, you have to have really frank discussions with the family. You have to say, you know, this is what your person will look like, this is what you could experience. And as a funeral professional, you need to know how to mitigate any consequences that embalming would normally take care of. And sometimes that is really hard. Sometimes it may not even be possible. Embalming is a tool that can do really powerful things in certain situations. But discussing with the family every step of the way, being highly transparent and letting them make those decisions for themselves is really key in my work that I've done. And finding education opportunities to learn yourself what that looks like and what those tools are. Monica Torres offers a really wonderful natural death care class that is open for students and for funeral directors, and it's online actually, and she'll walk you through a lot of the techniques that she's developed that I have learned from as well, and connecting with other people who are doing the same. Myself, Katie Houston also does that work really wonderfully. It's about education and honest conversation.
This afternoon, we're about to take a lunch break. And then right after that, we're going to come back and we're going to hear some scientific information about carbon impact and about the real net benefit to the environment every time this process is selected. And then we're going to get to, a little bit later, we're going to have a natural death care demonstration. And actually Katie, that Morgan just referred to, is a part of that. And then a local group of death educators called the Death Wives are going to work to demonstrate that here. And so you're going to actually get a little feel for what's possible. I'm excited for that question. We couldn't have had a better question. Thank you. And with that, I think we are headed into our lunch break. We have a 90-minute lunch break, and that's designed to allow you to get right maybe to the 16th Street Mall or to somewhere close by. If you aren't familiar logistically with where you are, I want to advise, if you walk out the front door of the hotel and turn to the right, you're 1 block from the 16th Street Mall, and there are probably 400 restaurants within a mile of where we are right now. But if you just go out the front door and take a right and walk 1 block. Whatever kind of food you like to eat is right there. And we would ask that you please make note to be back in your seat at 1:15, because this afternoon is just as sort of filled with information as the morning has been. Thank you all for being here. This is our outro into lunch. We'll see you at 1:15 right back here in your chairs.